They came for him on a Tuesday morning. I was making coffee when I heard the pounding on our front door. Not knocking, pounding, the kind that makes your heart jump into your throat. FBI, open the door. I froze, coffee pot in hand, staring at my husband, Michael, across the kitchen table. He was reading the newspaper like he did every morning, wearing his reading glasses and his favorite blue sweater. He looked up at me. His face was completely calm. "Michael?" My voice came out as a whisper. "What's happening?" He folded the newspaper carefully, took off his glasses, and stood up. "I'm sorry, Claire," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry." Then he walked to the front door and opened it. 6 FBI agents rushed in, guns drawn, shouting commands I couldn't process. They threw Michael against the wall, handcuffed him, read him his rights. "Michael Chen, you're under arrest for the murders of Jennifer Walsh, Patricia Moore, Samantha Cruz." They kept listing names, women's names. 9 of them. 9. I stood in the kitchen, still holding the coffee pot, as they took my husband away. The man I'd been married to for 12 years, the man I thought I knew everything about, was a serial killer. My name is Claire Chen. I'm 41 years old. I'm a high school English teacher. I have a master's degree in literature. I read 3 books a week. I'm smart, observant, analytical. And I lived with a serial killer for 12 years without knowing. That's what everyone wants to understand. How could I not know? How could I share a bed, a life, a home with someone who was murdering women and never suspect anything? I've asked myself that question 10,000 times. I still don't have a good answer. After they took Michael away, 2 FBI agents stayed behind, Special Agent Rebecca Morrison and Special Agent David Park. Morrison was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Park was younger, maybe early 30s, with a kind face that didn't match the terrible things he was about to tell me. "Mrs. Chen, we need to talk to you. Can we sit down?" I finally set down the coffee pot. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. We sat in my living room, the same living room where Michael and I had watched movies every Friday night, where we'd hosted dinner parties, where we decorated our Christmas tree every year. "I don't understand," I said. "There must be a mistake. Michael wouldn't, he couldn't." "Mrs. Chen," Morrison interrupted gently, "we've been investigating your husband for 18 months. We have DNA evidence, surveillance footage, digital forensics. There's no mistake." But I couldn't form words, couldn't think. Who did he? Park opened a folder. Inside were photographs. 9 of them. "These are the victims we know about," he said quietly. "There may be more." He laid them out on my coffee table, one by one. Jennifer Walsh, 28, long brown hair, smiling in the photo, completely alive and unaware she was going to die. Patricia Moore, 31, red hair, freckles, engagement ring visible in the picture. Samantha Cruz, 26, dark eyes, nursing scrubs. She was a nurse. Amanda Foster, 33, blonde, holding a small dog. Rachel Kim, 29, Asian like Michael, beautiful smile. Melissa Roberts, 30, pregnant in the photo, hand on her belly. Jessica Turner, 27, glasses, looked like a teacher. Lauren Mitchell, 32, athletic looking, caught mid-laugh. Kimberly Hayes, 28, the most recent. Her body had been found 3 weeks ago. 9 women, all in their late 20s to early 30s, all attractive, all brunette or dark-haired except for one, all dead. Because of my husband. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. When I came back, Morrison and Park were still waiting. "We need to ask you some questions, Mrs. Chen," Morrison said. "I know this is overwhelming, but we need to understand your husband's patterns, his behavior, anything that might help us." "I don't know anything," I whispered. "I didn't know he was doing this. I swear I didn't know." "We believe you," Park said. "Most partners don't know. These men are very good at compartmentalizing, at leading double lives." "How long?" I asked. "How long has he been—" "The first victim was murdered 7 years ago. The most recent, 3 weeks ago." 7 years. We'd been married for 12, together for 14, which meant for half of our relationship, Michael had been killing women, and I hadn't noticed a thing. "Walk us through a typical week," Morrison said, pulling out a notebook. "What was your husband's routine?" I tried to think through the fog in my brain. "He's a software engineer, works from home mostly. He'd be in his office during the day. We'd have dinner together around 7, watch TV, go to bed around 11. What about weekends?" "We'd run errands together usually. Sometimes he'd go hiking by himself. He liked nature photography, said it helped him decompress." Morrison and Park exchanged a look. "What?" I asked. "What does that look mean?" "Several of the victims were last seen on hiking trails," Park said carefully. Oh God, his hiking trips, his camera, his fucking nature photography. He'd come home with hundreds of photos of mountains, forests, wildlife. I thought, I thought he was just taking pictures of trees. "We'll need to examine all his photography equipment, his computer, his cameras, any storage devices. Of course, take whatever you need. I want to help. I want to—" I stopped, overwhelmed. Those women, did they suffer? Morrison's expression softened. "Mrs. Chen, I don't think those details will help you right now." Which meant, yes, they'd suffered, and my husband had made them suffer. They spent 6 hours in my house that day, going through Michael's office, his computer, his files. They took boxes of evidence, hard drives, cameras, notebooks, clothes. They found a locked drawer in his desk. Morrison asked if I had the key. "I didn't even know it locked," I said. They broke it open. Inside were souvenirs, a bracelet, a necklace, a driver's license, a hairbrush, a phone case, small personal items that meant nothing to anyone except the women they'd belonged to. Trophies, that's what the FBI called them. Serial killers often keep trophies from their victims. I recognized the bracelet. I'd seen Michael wearing it on his keychain. When I'd asked about it, he'd said it was from a conference, a freebie from some tech company. It had belonged to Jennifer Walsh, the first victim. He'd been carrying it with him for 7 years, a constant reminder of what he'd done, and I'd never questioned it. After the FBI left, I sat in my house alone. Our house. The house Michael and I had bought together 5 years ago. The house we'd painted, furnished, made into a home. I looked around and everything felt contaminated. The couch where we'd cuddled, the kitchen where we'd cooked together, the bedroom where we'd made love. Had he come home from murdering women and climbed into bed next to me? Had he touched me with the same hands that had killed 9 people? Yes, of course he had. I called my sister. "Emma, something's happened. Can you come over?" "What's wrong? You sound terrible." "Just please come. I need you." She arrived 20 minutes later, took one look at my face, and pulled me into her arms. "Michael was arrested. Emma, he killed people. Multiple people. The FBI says he's a serial killer." She pulled back, staring at me. "What?" 9 women, over 7 years. They have evidence, photos. It's real. "Oh my God. Claire, oh my God." We sat on the couch, the contaminated couch, and I told her everything. The FBI, the photographs, the trophies, the hiking trips. I lived with him. I slept next to him. I loved him. How did I not know? Because he didn't want you to know, Emma said firmly. This isn't your fault. You couldn't have known. But I should have. That's what everyone would think. His wife should have known. The media found out within hours. By evening, there were news vans outside my house, reporters on my lawn, cameras pointed at my windows. Mrs. Chen, did you know about your husband's crimes? Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about being married to a serial killer? Mrs. Chen, are you cooperating with authorities? I closed all the blinds, unplugged the phone, turned off my cell. But I couldn't escape the news. I turned on the TV and there it was. Breaking news. Local software engineer arrested in connection with 9 murders spanning 7 years. His wife, a high school teacher, is not currently facing charges, but authorities say the investigation is ongoing. Not currently facing charges, which meant they were considering it, considering that I might have known, might have helped him, might be complicit. My phone, before I turned it off, had exploded with messages. From friends, "Claire, is this true? Call me." From colleagues, "Oh my God, I just saw the news. Are you okay?" From parents of my students, "Did you know? How could you not know?" And from strangers, "You're a monster. You helped him kill those women. You deserve to rot in prison." People I'd never met deciding I was guilty, deciding I must have known. Maybe they were right. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the guest room. I couldn't go into our bedroom, couldn't sleep in the bed where a killer had slept, and tried to remember. Had there been signs, clues I'd missed? I thought about the last 7 years, tried to find the pattern. Michael had always been attentive, loving, normal. We'd had a good marriage, great even. We never fought much. He was thoughtful, remembered anniversaries, brought me flowers for no reason. He'd been patient when I'd had a miscarriage 3 years ago, held me while I cried, told me we'd try again when I was ready. Had that been after he killed someone? Had he comforted me right after murdering a stranger? I thought about his work schedule. He'd always been busy, working long hours. But he worked from home, so I'd see him throughout the day. He'd come down for lunch. We'd talk about our days. Normal couple things. When had he found time to stalk women, to plan murders, to dispose of bodies? The FBI said several victims were taken on weekends, during his hiking trips. I remembered those trips. He'd leave Saturday morning, come back Sunday evening, said he liked to camp overnight, get away from screens and work. I never questioned it, never asked to come along because I hated camping, never thought twice about him being gone for 36 hours. Plenty of time to murder someone. God, how could I have been so blind? The FBI came back the next day. This time they wanted me to come to the office for a formal interview. Emma drove me, held my hand in the car. "You didn't do anything wrong," she kept saying. "Just tell them the truth." But what was the truth? That I'd lived with a monster and never noticed. That made me either an idiot or a liar. At the FBI office, they put me in an interview room. Gray walls, metal table, the kind of room you see in crime shows. Morrison and Park came in with another agent, Special Agent Chen, no relation to Michael, he assured me, though the shared last name felt like a cruel joke. They recorded everything, read me my rights, not because I was under arrest, they said, but for legal protection. Then they started asking questions. When did you first meet Michael Chen? 14 years ago, at a friend's dinner party. He was funny, charming. We started dating a month later. Did he ever display violent behavior? Never. He was gentle, patient. I never saw him even raise his voice. Did you notice any changes in his behavior over the years? Periods where he seemed different? I thought hard. No, he was consistent, stable. That's what I loved about him. He was reliable. Did he ever come home with unexplained injuries, scratches, bruises? I stopped, thought. Maybe? Sometimes he'd have scratches on his arms from hiking, said he'd pushed through brush or fallen. I never questioned it. The agents exchanged looks. Did your husband ever discuss his childhood? Any trauma, abuse, difficult experiences? He said his childhood was normal, middle-class family, good parents. He didn't talk about it much, but when he did, it sounded fine. Did he have friends, social connections? Not really. He said he was an introvert, preferred small gatherings. We'd see my friends mostly. He never invited people over. Did that strike you as odd? No, lots of people are introverts. I just thought he was shy. More note-taking, more loaded looks between agents. Mrs. Chen, Morrison said carefully, did you ever find anything unusual in your home? Strange items, things you couldn't explain? Like what? Anything that didn't belong. Women's jewelry, clothing, personal items? The trophies. They wanted to know if I'd seen the trophies. The bracelet, I said slowly. He had it on his keychain. I asked about it once. He said it was from a conference. Did you believe him? Why wouldn't I? It was just a cheap bracelet. Did you ever see any of these other items? Park pushed photos across the table. The necklace, the driver's license, the hairbrush. I studied them. No, I have never seen any of those. Where did he keep them? Locked drawer in his desk. I didn't know the drawer locked. I barely went in his office. It was his workspace. I respected his privacy. So you never looked through his things, his computer, his files? No, we trusted each other. Or I'd thought we did. The interview lasted 4 hours. They asked the same questions multiple ways, trying to trip me up, find inconsistencies. Had I noticed missing women on the news? Yes, but I didn't connect them to Michael. Had Michael ever stayed out all night? Sometimes when he camped. I'd thought nothing of it. Had he ever given me gifts of jewelry? Yes. Was I sure it was new and not taken from victims? Yes, I'd been there when he bought it. Had we had financial issues? No, he made good money. We lived comfortably. Had I ever suspected infidelity? No, never. Had I ever suspected murder? No, never. Not once. Not even a flicker of suspicion, which made me either incredibly naive or incredibly stupid. Mrs. Chen, Agent Chen finally said, we've reviewed your phone records, your credit cards, your work schedule, your social media. We've interviewed your friends, your colleagues, your family. Everything indicates you had no knowledge of your husband's crimes. Relief flooded through me. So I'm not? You don't think I helped him? We don't believe you were actively involved, no, but we need you to understand something. In cases like this, the spouse often faces public scrutiny, accusations, harassment. People will assume you knew. They'll say you must have helped. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the reporters on my lawn, the hate messages on my phone. I don't think I have a choice, I said. They asked me to testify. Not right away, the trial was months off, but eventually they'd need me to take the stand, to talk about my life with Michael, to help the jury understand how he'd hidden his crimes. I'll do it, whatever you need. It won't be easy, Morrison warned. The defense will try to discredit you. They'll suggest you knew. They'll paint you as an accomplice or willfully blind. I don't care. Those women deserve justice. But I did care. I cared desperately, because everyone was going to judge me. Everyone was going to think I was a monster for not knowing my husband was a monster. Maybe they were right. I went back to work a week later. My principal had suggested I take more time, but I needed normalcy, needed to do something that wasn't sitting in my house thinking about dead women. But it wasn't normal. My colleagues looked at me differently, some with pity, some with suspicion, Some avoided me entirely. My students were worse. I heard the whispers. That's her, the serial killer's wife. Do you think she knew? My mom says she had to know. How could you live with someone like that and not know? One parent demanded I be removed from teaching her daughter, said I was morally compromised and potentially dangerous. The school board considered it, actually considered firing me because of crimes I didn't commit, committed by someone I'd thought I knew. They kept me on eventually, but the damage was done. I wasn't Claire Chen, good teacher, anymore. I was Claire Chen, the woman who married a serial killer. The media was relentless. Serial killer's wife speaks out, except I hadn't spoken to anyone. Did she know? Friends say she must have suspected. Friends who weren't actually my friends, people I'd met twice at parties. The Teacher and the Killer, a marriage built on lies. Complete speculation written by someone who'd never met either of us. They dug up everything, our wedding photos, now with sinister music and voiceovers about how he'd looked at me like a predator. Our Facebook posts analyzing my captions for hidden meanings. My yearbook photo from high school implying I'd always been weird, had always been attracted to dangerous men. They interviewed ex-boyfriends I dated 20 years ago, old colleagues, distant relatives. Everyone had an opinion about me, about what I should have known, about what I must have ignored. A crime show did a special, Living with Evil, the Claire Chen story. I didn't watch it, but Emma did, then called me crying. They made you look like you were in on it, she said. They implied you helped him. Claire, you need to sue them. For what? They didn't technically accuse me of anything. They just asked questions. Loaded questions. It doesn't matter. Let them think what they want. But it did matter, because everywhere I went, people recognized me, stared, whispered. Some confronted me. How could you not know? You must have helped him. You should be in prison too. I stopped going out, started having groceries delivered, avoided anywhere public. I became a prisoner in my own life. Michael's lawyer contacted me. He wanted to meet, he said, to discuss my testimony, to make sure I understood the situation. I knew what he really wanted, to intimidate me, to convince me not to testify. I met him anyway, at his office, with my own lawyer present. Emma had insisted I get one. David Porter was exactly what you'd expect. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, predatory smile. The kind of lawyer who defends people for money, not because he believes in justice. Mrs. Chen, thank you for coming, he said smoothly. I know this is difficult for you. What do you want? I want to make sure you're not pressured into saying things that aren't true. The FBI can be very persuasive. They want a conviction, and sometimes that means coaching witnesses. Nobody's coaching me. I'm telling the truth. The truth as you remember it, but memories are fallible, aren't they? Especially under stress. You've been through trauma. It's possible you're remembering things wrong. I remember perfectly. I lived with Michael for 12 years and never suspected he was killing women. That's the truth. Or, Porter said, leaning forward, you did suspect, maybe not consciously, but somewhere deep down you knew, and you chose to ignore it because the alternative was too painful. That's not true. Isn't it? You never questioned his hiking trips, never wondered why he had no friends, never found the locked drawer in his desk suspicious? I trusted him. Blind trust is complicity, Mrs. Chen. If you testify that you never suspected anything, the jury will think you're either lying or willfully ignorant. Either way, it doesn't look good for you. My lawyer intervened. Are you threatening my client? Not at all. I'm helping her, because if she takes the stand and admits she had no idea her husband was killing women, the prosecution will shred her. They'll make her look like an accomplice. But if she admits she had suspicions, if she's honest about the red flags she ignored, the jury will be more sympathetic. You want me to lie. I want you to be honest. Surely there were moments, small moments, where something felt off, where you thought, just for a second, that Michael wasn't who he claimed to be. Tell the jury about those moments. Show them you're human, that you had doubts but were afraid to voice them. No. Mrs. Chen, I said no. I never suspected him, not for a second, and I'm not going to lie to protect your client or make myself look better. I'm going to tell the truth. Porter smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Then I'll see you in court. The prosecution prepared me for trial. Assistant Sarah Brennan was in her 30s, sharp as a knife, with a reputation for taking down violent criminals. She'd prosecuted 3 serial killers in her career. All 3 were serving life sentences. You understand what's going to happen? She asked during one of our prep sessions. I testify about my marriage, about not knowing. And the defense will tear you apart. They'll suggest you're a liar, that you helped Michael, that you knew and chose to look the other way. Are you ready for that? I have to be. Let me walk you through it, Sarah said. She pulled out a folder. These are crime scene photos. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. They're horrific. The jury is going to see them, and when they do, they're going to look at you. They're going to wonder how you could have lived with the man who did this. She showed me the photos. I wish she hadn't. The women, those 9 beautiful women, were unrecognizable, broken, destroyed. What Michael had done to them, it wasn't just murder. It was torture. I ran to the bathroom and vomited, again. When I came back, Sarah's expression was sympathetic, but firm. That's what the jury is going to feel. Horror, disgust, rage. And some of that rage will be directed at you because you were closest to the man who did this. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to be strong. I need you to sit on that stand and look at those photos and not break down. I need you to be credible, composed, honest. I'll try. Don't try. Do it. Because if you fall apart, if you seem guilty or ashamed, the defense will use it. They'll say your guilt proves you knew. How do I not feel guilty? Those women are dead because of my husband. If I'd paid more attention, if I'd been more suspicious, maybe I could have stopped him. You couldn't have stopped him. Men like Michael are expert manipulators. They compartmentalize. They present one face at home and another to their victims. It's not your fault. But it felt like my fault. The trial started 6 months after Michael's arrest. I'd been living in limbo all that time, suspended from teaching pending the trial's outcome, isolated from most of my friends, living with Emma because I couldn't stand to be in the house anymore. We'd put the house on the market, but no one wanted a house where a serial killer had lived, where he kept trophies from his victims, where he slept peacefully after murdering women. It sat empty, a monument to my failed judgment. The trial was in Chicago, federal court. I arrived early with Emma and my lawyer. The courthouse was surrounded by protesters. Some held signs, "Justice for the victims." Others held different signs, "Investigate the wife. She knew. Complicit." They screamed at me as I walked in. "Murderer! You helped him. How could you not know?" Police escorted me through the crowd. I kept my head down, didn't respond, didn't react. Inside, Sarah met me. "You okay?" "No, but I'm here." That's what matters. The courtroom was packed, victims' families in the first rows, media everywhere else, and in the defendant's box, wearing a suit that made him look like a respectable businessman rather than a monster, Michael. He looked at me when I walked in, smiled sadly, like he was sorry for putting me through this. I looked away. The prosecution's case took 3 weeks. They presented overwhelming evidence. DNA from victims found in Michael's car, digital forensics showing he'd researched the victims online before approaching them, surveillance footage showing him near the abduction sites. And they presented the trophies, each item carefully photographed, tagged, explained, who it belonged to, how she died, when Michael took it. The jury looked sick. Victims' families cried. And through it all, Michael sat calmly, no emotion, No reaction, like he was watching someone else's trial. The defense tried to create reasonable doubt, suggested police planted evidence, claimed the digital forensics were unreliable, implied someone else had access to Michael's car. It was desperate, transparent. No one believed it. But they saved their real strategy for me. I was called to testify on day 18. I wore a simple gray dress, no jewelry, minimal makeup. Sarah's advice: look like a grieving widow, not an accomplice. I took the stand, put my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Sarah started with basic questions: background, how I met Michael, our courtship, marriage. I answered carefully, honestly, trying not to look at Michael, but I could feel him watching me. Did your husband ever display violent behavior? Sarah asked. Never. Did you ever suspect he was capable of murder? No. Why not? Because he was gentle, kind. He helped neighbors carry groceries. He donated to charity. He cried at sad movies. He wasn't the kind of person who could hurt anyone. But he did hurt people. 9 women are dead. I know, and I don't understand how the man I knew could have done those things. It's like he was 2 different people. Did you know about the locked drawer in his desk? I didn't even know the drawer locked. Did you ever see the trophies he kept? Only the bracelet on his keychain. I thought it was from a conference. Did you know your husband was going on hiking trips to stalk and murder women? No, I thought he liked nature photography. Sarah showed photos of Michael's office, his cameras, his files. Did you ever look through any of this? No, it was his private workspace. I respected that. So you never suspected anything? Never. Sarah paused. Let that sink in. Mrs. Chen, people are going to have a hard time believing that. How could you live with a serial killer for 12 years and never suspect a thing? Because he didn't want me to know, and I trusted him completely. Sarah sat down. Then David Porter stood up. Porter's cross-examination was brutal. Mrs. Chen, you're asking this jury to believe you had no idea what your husband was doing? Because I didn't. You never noticed he was gone every few weeks? Never questioned where he was? He told me he was hiking. I had no reason to doubt him. You never found it odd that he had no friends? Lots of people are introverted. You never wondered about his childhood, his past. He said it was normal. Did you ever meet his parents? I hesitated. No, he said they died before we met. Did you verify that? Why would I? Why would he lie about that? Maybe because he had something to hide. Did you ever ask to see death certificates, obituaries? No, I trusted him. Blind trust, how convenient. Objection, Sarah said. Argumentative. Withdrawn. Porter smiled. No further questions. I stepped down from the stand, shaking. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days of waiting. 2 days of wondering if they believed me. 2 days of imagining going to prison for crimes I didn't commit. Emma stayed with me the whole time, held my hand, reminded me to breathe. You told the truth, she kept saying. That's all you can do. Finally, the call came. Verdict reached. We went back to the courtroom. I sat behind the prosecution table as far from Michael as possible. The jury filed in. I tried to read their faces. Couldn't. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. In the case of the United States versus Michael Chen on the count of murder in the first degree regarding victim Jennifer Walsh, how do you find? Guilty. A sob from the gallery. Jennifer's mother. They read through all 9 counts. All guilty. Michael showed no reaction, just sat there, expressionless. The judge's sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Life without parole was expected. 9 consecutive life sentences. As they led him away, Michael looked at me one last time. I looked back, and I finally let myself admit something I'd been avoiding. I didn't know him. I never knew him. The man I'd loved, the man I'd married, the man I'd built a life with, he was a fiction, a mask, a carefully constructed lie. The real Michael was a killer, had always been a killer, and I'd never suspected a thing. Sentencing was quick. The judge condemned Michael in harsh terms, called him a predator and a monster, sentenced him to 9 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Michael would die in prison. That was certain. He was given a chance to speak before being taken away. He stood, looked at the victims' families. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice was quiet, emotionless. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. What I did was unforgivable. I destroyed families. I took daughters, sisters, friends, mothers. I can't explain why. I don't understand it myself. There's something broken in me, always has been." He turned to me. "Claire, I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't deserve it. You were a good wife. You were kind and loving and trusting, and I took advantage of that. I lied to you every day for 12 years, made you think I was someone I wasn't. That's on me, not you. You couldn't have known, because I made sure you wouldn't know. Don't let anyone tell you differently." Then he was led away. I never saw him again. The aftermath was complicated. I wasn't charged with anything. The FBI concluded I had no knowledge of Michael's crimes. But public opinion was less forgiving. Half the country saw me as a victim, a woman who'd been deceived by a master manipulator. The other half saw me as complicit, either actively helping Michael or willfully ignorant of obvious signs. I lost my teaching job, not officially fired, but let go due to budget concerns. Everyone knew the real reason. Parents didn't want their children taught by a serial killer's wife. I started crying. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I wanted you to know that someone sees you. The real you. And that person is worth knowing." It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in 2 years. Brian and I grew closer after that. Carefully. Slowly. He never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. When I woke up screaming from nightmares, he held me without asking questions. When I had panic attacks in crowds, he got me outside, helped me breathe. "You're not broken," he'd say. "You're healing. There's a difference." A year into our relationship, he asked me something I'd been dreading. "Do you still love him?" "Michael?" "Yeah." I thought about it. Really thought. No, I don't think I ever loved him. I loved who I thought he was, but that person didn't exist. How can you love a ghost? "Do you hate him?" "Sometimes, but mostly I feel nothing. He's a stranger, someone I read about in a true crime book. He doesn't feel real anymore." Good, because he doesn't deserve your love or your hate. He doesn't deserve anything from you. Brian was right. Michael had taken enough. I wasn't giving him any more. 3 years after the trial, I got a letter from Michael, forwarded through my lawyer because I'd never given him my new address. I almost threw it away, almost burned it, but curiosity won. "Dear Claire, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you've moved on, built a new life. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness. I'm writing because my appeals have been exhausted. I'll be in prison for the rest of my life, and before I die here, I need to tell you some things. You asked how you didn't know. The answer is simple. I didn't want you to know. I compartmentalized completely. When I was with you, I was Michael the husband, loving, attentive, normal. When I was hunting, I was someone else entirely, two separate identities that never touched. It wasn't hard to hide. People believe what they want to believe. You wanted to believe I was a good man, so you saw a good man. I gave you no reason to doubt. The hiking trips were easy. You hated camping, so you never asked to come. I'd leave Saturday morning, scout victims Friday night online, approach them during the day, and be home by Sunday evening. You never questioned the scratches or the exhaustion. Why would you? The trophies were hidden in plain sight. The bracelet you asked about, you accepted my lie immediately. The locked drawer, you respected my privacy. The computer, you never checked my browser history. You trusted me. That trust wasn't foolish. It was normal. Spouses trust each other. I exploited that. I want you to know, I did love you. Not the way normal people love, maybe, but in my own broken way, I loved you. You were my anchor to normalcy, my proof I could be human. The women I killed, I can't explain that. Something in me is wrong, has always been wrong, a void where empathy should be. They weren't real to me. They were objects, puzzles, games. But you were real. You were the only real person in my life. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that what we had, at least from my side, was as real as I'm capable of feeling. I hope you find real love, the kind I could never give you. You deserve that. I'm sorry for everything. Michael. I read it 3 times. Then I burned it. Dr. Martinez asked me about the letter in our next session. How did it make you feel? Angry, sad, confused. He says he loved me, but how can a monster love? How can someone who tortures and kills have any capacity for real emotion? Some psychopaths do form attachments, not in the way healthy people do, but in their own way. He probably did see you as different from his victims, special, separate. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. But it might help you understand that what happened wasn't about you being stupid or blind. He was wired wrong. He mimicked love, mimicked normalcy. You couldn't have detected that. So I was just unlucky? I happened to marry a monster? In a way, yes. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong person. But that's not a reflection on you. That's a reflection on him. I wanted to believe her, wanted to accept that I'd just been unlucky, not stupid. But part of me would always wonder, were there signs I missed? Could I have saved those women? 5 years after the trial, I started speaking publicly. Not about Michael directly, but about trust, betrayal, and how predators hide in plain sight. I spoke at universities, conferences, victim advocacy groups, about my experience, about learning to trust my judgment again, about the difference between healthy trust and willful blindness. People want there to be obvious signs, I'd say. They want to believe that evil looks evil, that monsters have horns and fangs, but they don't. Monsters look like your neighbor, your coworker, your spouse. They look normal because they've spent their whole lives learning to blend in. My husband was a serial killer for 7 years before he was caught, and I didn't know, not because I was stupid or complicit, but because he was skilled at deception. He showed me exactly what I wanted to see, and I accepted it because I loved him, because I trusted him. That doesn't make me guilty, It makes me human. The audiences varied. Some were sympathetic, others skeptical. But slowly the narrative shifted. I wasn't the woman who should have known anymore. I was the woman who'd been deceived by a master manipulator. It was a small distinction, but it mattered. I wrote a book, Living with a Stranger, My Life with a Serial Killer. My publisher warned me, people will hate you for this. They'll say you're profiting from tragedy. I know, but I need to tell my story, the real story, not the version the media created. The book came out 6 years after Michael's conviction. It was honest, brutally so. I didn't paint myself as innocent or unaware. I acknowledged the red flags I'd dismissed, the questions I hadn't asked, the trust I'd given too freely. But I also made it clear I didn't know. I couldn't have known. Michael had made sure of that. The book became a bestseller, not because people sympathized with me, though some did, but because people were fascinated by the psychology. How does someone live with a killer and not know? How do predators hide so effectively? The book gave answers, not easy answers, but honest ones. I donated most of the proceeds to victims' advocacy organizations, kept enough to live on, started a foundation, the 9 Voices Project, named after Michael's 9 known victims. We funded research into recognizing predatory behavior, supported families of victims, advocated for better resources for people escaping dangerous relationships. It felt like the only good thing I could create from the horror. Brian and I got married 7 years after I left Chicago. Small ceremony, just us, Emma, and a few close friends. On a beach in Oregon, far from everything. I took his last name. Claire Morrison was dead anyway. Might as well become someone new entirely. Claire Taylor. That's who I am now. On our wedding night, Brian asked me something. Do you ever think about him? Michael? Sometimes. Less now than before. He's like a bad dream I'm slowly forgetting. Do you ever wonder why? Why he killed? I'd thought about this a lot. I think he was born broken. Something in his brain didn't work right. Empathy, conscience, whatever makes most people human, he didn't have it, and he learned to fake it well enough to blend in. Do you think there are others like him, hiding? Probably. Maybe I pass them on the street. Maybe you work with one. There's no way to know for sure. That's terrifying. It is, but I can't live in fear. I did that for too long. Now I just live. Carefully, but I live. He kissed me. I love you, Claire Taylor. I love you too. And I meant it. Real love this time, not the fiction I'd had with Michael. 8 years after Michael's conviction, he died in prison, stabbed by another inmate during a fight in the yard, bled out before guards can save him. The FBI called to notify me, asked if I wanted to claim the body. No, I said, I don't know that man, never did. They cremated him. I don't know what happened to the ashes. I don't care. Michael Chen was gone, not just from my life, but from the world. I felt nothing, no relief, no satisfaction, nothing. He'd already been dead to me for years. His physical death changed nothing. I'm 49 now, 8 years removed from the trial, 15 years since Michael was arrested. I teach again. Adult education, literature classes at a community college. Students who don't know my history, don't recognize my face, who just see me as Professor Taylor, the woman who loves books. Brian and I have a good life. Quiet, simple, normal. We hike sometimes, and I had to relearn to be okay with that. Had to separate hiking from what Michael did on his hikes. It took years, but I can enjoy nature again without seeing murder in every tree. I'm still in therapy, probably always will be. Trauma doesn't just disappear. You learn to live with it, integrate it, let it make you stronger instead of breaking you. I still have nightmares sometimes, still wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I'm back in that courtroom, back on that witness stand, back in that house with a killer. But less often now, and when it happens, Brian is there, grounding me, reminding me I'm safe. I am safe. Emma asked me recently, "Do you regret marrying him, knowing what you know now?" I thought about it. I regret that 9 women died. I regret that I couldn't stop it. But do I regret the marriage itself? No. How can you not regret it? Because that experience, horrific as it was, made me who I am, stronger, more cautious but not paranoid, more aware but not cynical, and it gave me purpose. The foundation, the speaking, the book. I help people now. I couldn't do that without having survived this. "You're stronger than I'll ever be," Emma said. "You'd be surprised what you can survive when you have to." If you're reading this, if you're wondering how someone could live with a monster and not know, I want you to understand something. Predators are experts at hiding. They study normal people, mimic their behaviors, create convincing masks. They compartmentalize. They lie without guilt. They manipulate without conscience. And they choose partners carefully, people who trust easily, who see the best in others, who respect privacy, who don't ask uncomfortable questions. I was the perfect victim for Michael's deception, trusting, loving, busy with my own life, willing to believe his explanations. That doesn't make me complicit. It makes me human. And if it happened to me, someone educated, observant, intelligent, it could happen to anyone. The question isn't, how could she not know? The question is, how did he hide it so well? And the answer is practice, skill, and a complete lack of conscience. I visited Jennifer Walsh's grave last month. I'd never done that before, felt like I didn't have the right, but Patricia, Jennifer's mother, invited me. "I'd like you to meet my daughter," she said. We stood in front of the headstone. Jennifer Marie Walsh, beloved daughter and friend, gone too soon. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't stop him. I'm sorry I didn't see who he really was." Patricia took my hand. "Jennifer wouldn't blame you. She was kind, understanding. She'd tell you it wasn't your fault." How can you not hate me? Because hate won't bring her back, and because I've learned something over these years. Michael Chen destroyed enough lives. I won't let him destroy yours too. You were a victim as much as Jennifer was, just in a different way. I cried. We both cried. And standing there, in front of the grave of a woman I'd never met, but whose death was connected to my life forever, I finally started to forgive myself. My name is Claire Taylor. I was married to a serial killer for 12 years and never knew. That's not something I'm proud of, but it's not something I'm ashamed of anymore either. It's just what happened. A terrible, tragic thing that I survived. Michael killed 9 women, maybe more that were never found. He destroyed families, caused immeasurable pain, and then he destroyed me, or tried to. But I'm still here, still living, still teaching, still loving, still hoping. Michael is gone. The victims can't come back. The damage can't be undone. But I can keep living, keep helping others, keep turning tragedy into purpose. That's all any of us can do. Survive, heal, help others do the same. I didn't know my husband was a killer, but I know who I am now, and that's enough.